UVM reporting. UVM support a lot of inbuilt methods and macros to help debugging by printing appropriate messages like information, display and all. And the recommendation is you should never use the $display function or any Systemverilog direct display functions in any of the UVM components. Instead, you should use the four methods or four functions supported in the UVM. So these are the four functions supported in UVM for reporting. They are UVM report info, UVM report warning, UVM report error and UVM report fatal. These are inbuilt functions. And every UVM reporting functions have the following properties. They have a severity, a simulation handling behavior and a verbosity. The severity is importance which lies in their own name. There can be a fatal error or error or a warning or just an information. And the simulation handling behavior says on occurrence of this particular messaging function what should happen. So if it can exit the simulation, or it can just count a global number, or it can just display, or it can print to a log function and so on. And verbosity is a filtering level. Now you look into these functions individually. The first function is UVM report info. So the arguments are first is a string which can be a message ID, and next one is the actual message which is again a string, and third argument is a verbosity. So message ID is an identifier to this particular message. The UVM will finally display the number of occurrence of this particular message with the particular message ID. So typically you can give it like UVM report info. The first argument, it can be a function name from where you are calling that particular message. And the second argument can be the actual information that you are passing, or the actual information that you want to print. Say for example, if you are decoding a transaction, the values, etc. And third argument in the UVM report info is the UVM verbosity level. The verbosity level is just a number, and these are the standard numbers defined in the UVM. They are just typed of macros. UVM none means 0, UVM low means 100 and so on. So the rule is like, if the verbosity of a particular message or the report message is less than or equal to the verbosity of the component that is set, then that message will be displayed. Say for example, if you are using this UVM report info in in an environment, and you can set the default verbosity level of the environment. If it is say 100, then all the messages with a verbosity less than or equal to 100 will be displayed. Say for example, if you have two messages, say three messages with one message with UVM none or 0, a second message is using the verbosity low, and third one is using the verbosity high, then the messages none and low will be displayed, and message with verbosity high or 300 will not be displayed. So it's just a filtering level. Sometimes you don't want to print all the debug information, but when your test bench is working fine. But at the bring up stage of your test bench, you might want to print more information regarding the behavior of the test bench, which are irrelevant in a stabilized test bench. So these are verbosity level is just a mechanism to filter out messages without changing the code. So you can determine the verbosity of that particular message while coding, and you can set the verbosity of that particular UVM component in the runtime by using some functions. The other three reporting functions, they are UVM report warning, UVM report error and UVM report fatal. They have same format. They have two arguments. First one is message ID and second is message, and there is no verbosity associated with these functions. So all these messages associated with these three functions are always printed irrespective of the verbosity level of the particular UVM component from which it is called. And then what is differentiating all these three? That is default action. So these are the default actions set for all the messages. When a UVM report info is occurred, the default action is UVM display. So the UVM display will just display the messages into the console. And when a UVM warning is occurred, the default action is again UVM display. It will just display the particular messages to this console, or it will print it to the log file. And when a UVM report error is occurred, the default action is first to display the message and do UVM count. So the UVM count action will increment the global error count, and finally it will print the total number of errors occurred. And when a UVM report fatal is occurred, it will first display this argument and it will do UVM exit. So a UVM exit will exit the simulation immediately. So these are the default actions, and you can change this default action by using some functions, but usually it won't be needed in your typical test bench. One last thing regarding the UVM reporting. Corresponding to every reporting functions, a UVM reporting macro is defined. this is a macro defined for report info, tick UVM info, and tick UVM warning is a macro defined for UVM report warning functions. So these macros will call these functions corresponding to these macros internally, and if you should never use this UVM reporting functions directly, but you should use this macro. The format to call the macro and function is exactly same, and if you use these macros instead of these functions, it gives you a lot of simulation advantages.